Well, I think one of the challenges with winter often is that most of us become less mobile or in a variety of ways. And so we're more likely to just have our arms in front of us and, we maybe aren't canoeing or raking or things that really create more mobility. And so I wanted to offer this position today as a way to unwind all that. So we come to our mat with a variety of things handy. If you are going to be using a block instead of, say, a rolled up blanket, and you're then tucking it right under your ribs, just south or down from the wingtips of your shoulder blades, you want to have something that you have the option of tucking under the head. And then you can make any little adjustments. I'm keeping my knees bent because I noticed that it reduces pressure at the low back. And I invite you to just scan your body for a moment. I'm hoping that you're experiencing a general relaxation with maybe a gentle stretch. I'm feeling it through the diaphragm and some of that kind of area around the abdomen and ribs. If I let my shoulder heads settle towards the floor, I also feel it a little bit in the chest area and across the front of the shoulder joint. And then we're going to be adding some gentle movements, and it's slow and active is the best way I can think of it. So I'm going to ask you to bring both arms straight up to the sky, and the fingers are spread wide. It's like you're holding a loaf of bread above your chest. And then ever so slowly, you're going to reach one hand down towards the wall in front of you and one arm up towards the wall behind you. So you're kind of slicing the air. And I like to pause at that kind of ultimate reach and see, are my elbows straight? And then slowly switching so that the other arm's reaching behind the head and the other arm's reaching towards the wall. And what I notice is that when people do this, there's a real tendency to bend the elbow and think about reaching the floor. And instead, I'm going to ask you to really pay just deep attention to getting that elbow karate chop straight and not letting it bend. So we don't care how far down you go towards the floor. We care the kind of stretch that you get and that elongation of the whole muscular and neural line. And nice slow movements. I want you to really feel what's around the shoulder blades and the joint. And of course, we're breathing, and we'll do a little intentional getting into breath once we come off of the object of support. We'll deepen that breath, but for now, just slow, deep and wide yoga breath through the nose, making your movements. And at some point, you might hold with one arm up, and then if you would turn your face away from that arm, and you could even bring the arm in closer to the ear. And what I find is that often gives a wonderful stretch kind of through this connection point where the shoulder joint and lat muscles and stuff all come together. And then the other arm coming up, and again, you might just bring it a little more towards your ear and rotate the face away. How's that feel? Good, good. Yeah, I often say that yoga in general, but especially these kinds of things, should feel like a massage that you're giving yourself. So you're welcome. And then you might just let both arms settle by your side, palms towards the ceiling, what we call kind of jet airplane position. And take a few peaceful breaths into that broad space at the front of the body. And then we're going to roll just gently to the side. So I don't want you to lift your head directly up because that can tighten those front muscles. Just sort of roll to the side, and let's all roll to the right off your object of support. And then moving that aside so it won't be in your way. And then you'll just return to your back body. And you might notice how that feels. That just neutral being flat might actually feel kind of weird. So corpse pose, if you will. Yeah, I always like to get kind of comfy in corpse pose, just sort of wiggle my legs around, maybe take my feet wider than the hips. because they spend most of the day below the hips. Just take them nice and wide. Yeah. We're gonna come into 3 sighing breaths. Inhaling slow, deep and wide through the nose. Asking, is there more? And exhaling softly through the mouth. And we know that this sighing breath has the ability to massage the nervous system, to take us out of fight or flight and into our bliss breath and rest and digest. And we have to remember that stress does not just come in the form of major stress events. It can come from perpetual hurrying and worrying. So throughout our practice and throughout the rest of your day, I hope off the yoga mat, you'll notice when you're just feeling a little bound up and So now taking breath only through the nose, unless you're too stuffy, in which case use your mouth. Once you begin to watch the movement of breath in your body, you might notice where fabric is moving against your skin, the gentle rising and settling of the body. And we would love throughout our practice, over and over again, to look for the pause or the gap between inhale and exhale and inhale. Try to find that moment that is just a pause, like in a beautiful piece of music. We're going to come into compression and expansion breathing. And I find this to be an amazing way to deepen our breath capacity and to up our core contraction ability, our strength. So as you're ready on your next exhale, slowly, steadily draw the abdomen towards the spine, the low back anchoring towards the floor. It's like you're pressing air out of an old air mattress, or you're trying to push a scale more firmly. Asking, is there more? Is there more? Is there more? Is there more? If you can whisper, there is still breath to be pressed out, then relax and allow the inhale to breathe you. At the very end, sipping in a little extra. And to continue in this way, those of you who are chronic neck shoulder tighteners, especially if you're a doer, you're like, I'm a doer. You're probably a neck shoulder tightener. I want you, while you're doing those powerful compressions, roll your head side to side. So you're super engaged at the center body and just soft and liquid. We can even get soft in the mouth. Tongue is just relaxed. Maybe the tip of the tongue is at that roof of the mouth behind the front teeth. We love that. It kind of says, I'm awake in my practice. But the rest of the tongue and the jaw are soft. Eyebrows are soft. Exhaling and inhaling, emptying and filling. Now I know that you've done a number of rounds and you might be thinking, I got this. I don't need to do any more of these. But I offer a couple of thoughts on that. One is I am fairly sure there's probably some muscularity that you could communicate with more deeply. For a lot of us, it's those low belly muscles right between the hip bones. And that also coordinates with pelvic floor. So I like to take my fingers right here and say, hey, you, are you contracting? Are you engaging? To help press breath out and to help anchor the low back. This is super valuable for some of us. I was one of these people who every time I tried to engage my core, it would pop out. So like I tried to do a sit-up and my belly would pop out. And the problem with that is those muscles then aren't supporting the low spine. So we want them to go draw in and down. We'll do just a few more. And again, the nuance, I would imagine you could probably find a little more emptying and a little more filling. See if that's possible. Notice if the mind wanders and come back to breath attention over and over again. And really, that's a beautiful massage for your mind. Next time you inhale that beautiful breath wave, go ahead and sweep arms overhead towards the wall behind you and just begin organically stretching. So if you're waking up your body for the first time today, rolling wrists, rolling ankles, you can flex and point. Oh, hello body, marvelous. And then we're going to place our feet for bridge pose. So feet are flat. If you've got socks on, I recommend taking them off at this time if you can. I tried to get the room nice and warm for you guys. And I'm going to invite everyone to take a block, either one of these soft pillowy ones or the kind of foam or cork block, and place it between your thighs. And we want to then consider, are the knees straight up and down of the feet? We would like that. Maybe you feel like your feet are wider, try and bring it in, all right? We're gonna work our shoulder heads in underneath us. So it's like I'm trying to wing my shoulder blades together. You might have your upper arms anchoring, or maybe you're using whole arm. And we're gonna come in and out of bridge. Nice long inhale as if it's all you'd ever do. Exhale, belly to spine, spine to floor, then raise the hips into bridge. Asking, is there more? On the inhale, please descend as slowly as you can. And this is key because when we do that, we are activating and waking up our posterior chain, the back body, in a way that it really needs. So we started with opening the front body, and now we are strengthening the back body, teaching those muscles how to contract. Please observe the fullness of inhale and exhale. So on the inhale, just because your hips have returned to the floor doesn't mean that you're done inhaling, right? So take all the time in the world to enjoy that luscious, long yoga breath. If you're feeling neck pressure, consider tilting the chin up and back a little bit. That'll reduce the pull through the back of the neck. So please notice if any part of your foot is coming away from the floor. Try to anchor your feet, especially that inner line of the foot. Another little fun thing we can do here is curl the toes up away from the floor. So it's just the roots of the toes and the foot. That can be a wonderful way to wake up the musculature of the feet. Yes. Your toes anchored through here. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, you can even re-anchor them. We'll do just a couple more. And then I'm going to have you add our foot hover. And some people don't like having a block between when we do that. If you're going to take the block away, I just want you to pretend you still have one and think about squeezing it, because that will help keep your knees upright. We're going to keep working that inner thigh. So as you're ready, with hips off the floor, I like my hands on my hip bones. Just slowly lift one foot, hovering off the floor, maybe just a couple of inches. Try to keep that other hip from dropping. If you feel that you're about to get a hamstring cramp, stop, straighten the leg, and begin again. Yeah, and you can even come down with the hips and come back up. We'd love to keep breathing here in spite of the effort. Remain soft in the neck, the tongue, the jaw. You guys are looking good. Yeah, nice. I can see you're keeping those hips beautifully stable. Let's just do one more each side, and then come slowly on down. And you're gonna bring your knees towards you and to the ribs, or to the outside of the ribs for happy baby. And this is where having a strap can sometimes be so wonderful. It can really allow us to enjoy the stretch. And you're gonna just, if you're using the strap, you're gonna place it across the arches of the feet. And taking your knees as wide as comfortable, and then drawing the knees towards the floor. And then please, everyone, scan and see if you can anchor your shoulder heads down the back, relax the neck, tilt the tailbone towards the floor. And I hope you can just see this really changes things. You've got your spine neutral and supported. And now if you take an even bigger inhale, I'm hoping you'll feel it way down into those hips. I always like to say the breath is our change agent. You know, the yoga shapes are marvelous, but the breath is really what transforms our tensions. Good. And then we're going to bring the heels together at the butt. If you're using a strap, just bring both ends of the strap together, bring the feet together, and then you'll pull the strap kind of up towards your chest. Those of us using hands, whether it's on the feet or the ankle, I find if you can get the feet or you're using a strap, you'll get a better stretch. Bringing those feet also up the body towards the belly or chest. And some of us like adding a little windshield wiper, as I think of it, or seesaw. You kind of bring one foot closer and then the other. This is difficult to do if you're using a strap. Some people even like adding a sit-up motion where you're trying to bring one foot towards your nose and then the other. Marvelous. And then we're going to plant the feet for horse riding stance. So we're going to just take them flat, right out the outer edge of the mat. Foot angle is whatever's comfortable for those knee joints as you raise the hips up and release a little and invigorate and release a little. So just kind of a pumping motion up at that upper end. And releasing the hips down. Slowly settle your right knee down towards the floor, towards the center line. So I'm angling it in, keeping my left knee straight up. And then I'll slowly switch and let the left knee settle, the right knee staying straight up. There's also another version of this that some people like, which is letting the other leg flop so that you're kind of windshield wiping both legs. My only concern about that is that I don't want you to feel any low back pressure or destabilization, which sometimes we do if we do that. The other is there's a distinct stretch you get when the one knee stays upright. Am I right? Do you guys feel that? Yeah, you really get into that inner thigh groin muscle as it relates and wraps around the hips. So it has its own benefit. In the wintertime, I always think about this, that, you know, if we slip and fall, we don't always get to control our shape as we go down. So it's really great to remind the body that we're capable of this internal rotation for the knee. We're going to go the opposite now and slowly walk the soles of the feet together and let the knees settle towards the floor in relaxed butterfly. Yeah, and see if you can get your whole sole of your feet touching. Yeah. What is that like to just breathe and welcome the stretch? For some people, this is just very relaxing. Others will feel a distinct stretch. Then, if you would like to turn this into a strengthening posture with me, we're going to slowly raise the hips off the floor. And we're not trying to go as high as we can like we do in bridge. We just want to get a little off the floor. So we're feeling ignition in the glute and inner thigh muscles. And choosing to breathe and relax inside of this muscular effort. If it becomes too much, just come out. You can always rejoin us. We're going to hang out here for about a minute. What are you noticing as you hold here? What I noticed the first time I went to do this posture is that I didn't know if I could. Like I was trying to tell my muscles to lift. I was like, can I do this? Does my body work like this? So you guys are doing great. Yeah. All right, let's take just maybe 2 or 3 more breaths here if you've got it. Watching the breath, the rising, the settling. And then settling your hips towards the floor, inviting the knees to settle towards the floor, and see if perhaps you're in a deeper shape than you were when we started. We're then going to take our soles of feet to the mat again to prepare for reclined pigeon. As you all know, one of my favorite poses. Take your right ankle and cross it onto left thigh, heel flexed. The heel flexion stabilizes that right knee, and we really want that. And then I like kind of wagging my right knee sometimes. So like I'll wag the knee away and towards me. Yeah, and then if you're able to lift the left leg off the floor, that's going to give you extra support for the stretch. If you can't or it hurts your back or something, don't do that. Either way, we're going to try and hug the right knee as close to our chest as possible. Then send it a little towards the center line. And it doesn't usually take much to find that edge. Yeah, I see some people taking their hand to that edge, right to that right, and love it. This feels okay. No, it's great. And whatever you want, if you want this in bed, you know, okay. See, and just, oh, perfect. That's a good solution. Yeah. And as you're ready, we'll switch. Again, I remind you, the breath is the change agent. So the more you can tune in and notice, wow, if I give that deep inhale, what happens? So now we're crossing left ankle, right thigh. If you're able to, you're hugging that left knee tight to the chest and raising the right leg. Again, if that hurts or bothers, keep the right foot planted. As you get that knee as close to your chest as you can, and you send it a little towards the center line. I'm doing the standing version just to show you. Yeah, the nice thing about this version of pigeon that you're doing versus like a classic pigeon that sometimes you see in yoga is this really is safer for the knee joints and the sacroiliac area. So I just love it because it's so approachable and you can get into a deep stretch without compromising anything. You guys look really good. When you're complete there, I'm going to invite us to return to bridge pose one more time. And we're going to just hold bridge. So if you want to put the block back between the thighs, otherwise pretend you've got the block between the thighs. I notice it really makes a difference for me because I'm historically very weak in the inner thigh compared to the outer, and this has really helped. Then once you have your hips off the floor, work those shoulder blades towards each other. And if you would like, you could try to clasp intertwining the fingers behind the back, what we call yoga mudra. Alternately, using a strap can work well or a sock. Nice, you guys are great. Send your fists or hands towards the heels. Send your pinkies towards the floor. Yeah, this one, squishy. Press in, push down, yeah. And you feel how that kind of fires up those triceps? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, excellent. Love it. Looking good. As you take one or two more breaths there, can you relax your neck and can you deepen the breath? See if you can have those two edges. Oh, and then just relax. Maybe you bring knees to belly and give yourself a little spinal rocking side to side because hey, that always feels good. And we're going to come up onto hands and knees in table pose. I want to remind you, if being on your wrists for a period of time becomes fatiguing or what have you, you can always go to fists. And if you're doing fists, you want those thumbs facing forward like so. So as you're ready, intelligent hands, inhaling cow pose, tailbone tilts back and heart draws forward. Asking, is there more? Exhaling, tuck the tailbone and raise the spine towards the sky, let the head hang. Man, that feels good. I swear half the time I don't even know there's as much tension in my neck as there is until I try to let the head hang. Inhaling and exhaling.
Letting breath initiate motion, which can be its own challenge. We tend to want to rush to the next thing. We're so human. I've often said, wouldn't it be more peaceful if I could just like cut my head off, right? My mind was not participating. Right, the next time you're in cat back, hold in cat back and send the ribs left and right. Yeah, so sending the ribs to the right, I can also take my head to the left and look out over my shoulder to the left. Taking my ribs to the left, I can look out over my right shoulder. Dogs and cats and even cows and pigs, they're so good at getting into these kinds of organic stretches and going, oh, wouldn't it feel good if I also, sent my hips backward, oh, or if I opened my jaw wide. Then we're going to connect in table pose in what I call stable table. And that means that I have enough in my core that I can clap. So see if you can create enough upward core pressure that you can clap. Nice. And then we're going to ever so slowly hover just the right hand and the left knee off the floor. Practice staying soft in the neck and breathing slow, deep, and wide. One hand and the opposite knee, and then slowly return. Ooh, it's so easy with all four on the ground, isn't it? And then take the other hand, left hand, right knee, or whatever you're on by this time. Yeah, and we're just hovering those limbs an inch off the floor. We'll do extension in a minute, but the reason I start small is it's easier to scan your body for little funky things like tightening your neck or whatever. Nice, yeah, always small. All right, then we're going to add extension. Okay, now what I'm hoping you're noticing is when you lift your limbs off the floor, is your chest dropping? Is one hip's collapsing? What we want is to keep the body looking like we've not lifted limbs, basically, the torso. So as you're ready to create limb extension, really watch the body for any of those collapses or adjustments or compensations. And then ever so slowly, just like when we descended slowly in bridge, we're going to come back to table. Letting inhale initiate the other set of limbs. The main place of collapse is usually the chest of the arm that remains on the floor. So it's your right arm, a lot of times the right chest wants to kind of see. Looking good, you guys have nice long neutral necks, love it. And a lot of you have already got that foot flexion that I love to see in the back leg because it ignites the leg muscles. Majority of human beings doing this will have a slightly bent knee. And I want you to just check in and see if you can fully straighten that knee joint. Yes, you can. Excellent. It felt straight. It felt straight, exactly, right? I know. That's why I'm here. I try to be your mirror. Powering up. What it really requires is you've got to press through that heel and then you power up through the quadricep, the front of the thigh. Yeah. And wherever possible, have your toes pointed straight down. Because again, that's going to organize the leg and hip muscles very differently. You guys look good. As sort of seemingly simple and kind of boring as this is actually one of my favorite ways to ignite core. Because again, it ignites the back body and the front body, and in a way that we don't have to tighten the neck, unlike sit-ups, right? But we probably want to come off our wrists by now. So let's come all the way to our bellies. When you're ready, just flop on down. Yeah, take a moment, you can turn your head to the side, whatever, and just relax. That's one of the challenges with doing anything is it becomes really easy to forget about the breath. So I'd love you to tune in more deeply. Oh yeah, you guys look good. When we get deep belly breath, it shows up in our back. It's wonderful. We get a little back massage. Marvelous. I'm going to invite you to bend your knees and just slowly and gently windshield wiper your legs side to side. There's also a version where you cross and uncross. So it's whatever, feel free to play with both. Again, honoring the low back. If you feel anything kind of pinchy or unstable, don't do it. And then relaxing the legs to the floor once more. We're gonna come into knee down forearm plank. And I know some of you like doing the full thing on your feet. Don't worry, I'll offer that. But I wanna start subtle because again, that's where we get to catch our bad habits. And then we can come into the more intense version that much more vigorously. So we just want our elbows kind of down below the shoulders, maybe back a little bit. Shoulder heads anchor. And when you're ready, you're just gonna tuck the tailbone and push the hips off the floor. And I'm hoping what you're feeling is ignition in that low belly that we kind of ignited during compression exhale. Yeah, so scan your body. What is it like to just breathe and be here? If you're thinking, you know, I kind of dig it, but I want like a little more intensity without coming to my feet, try walking your elbows forward like a half an inch. It's not a big adjustment. And you might now feel a lot more activation in the front body and a little quiver. And let's just come out, take a rest moment, turn your head to the other side. Ooh, I remember there was a period of time where I think I'd sprained my ankle or something and I could not do forearm plank on my feet. And so all I would do is move my elbows forward a little bit and oh my God, I was so sore in my abdominal muscles for days. So I just want to remind you, we can do really, really good work on the knees. If you would like to join me on the feet, I always come up onto knees first, because then you've got that beautiful spinal alignment, then curl the toes under and press your thigh bones towards the sky. It also helps to imagine that you're squeezing an imaginary block between the thighs, because if your ankles roll out even a little bit, it will put pressure at the back. It'll make you feel weak and you're not. You guys are all super strong. I can see that. Can you breathe here and stay soft in the neck? If you'd like a little more challenge, you might try lifting one foot at a time, very slow, very active, reaching for the wall behind. Again, no hip drop, nothing. Whew, yeah, that's a way to get warm. All right, come on down to your bellies, and we're gonna come right away into our glider plane. Hands are straight out from the heart, fingers are active and spread, and shoulder heads circle all the way down the back and as far off the floor as possible. So no one's shoulder head should be just settling into the floor. Yeah, you guys look great. And then anchor the pelvic triangle, pubic bone and hip bones. So you're pushing downward with the glutes. And then as you're ready, inhale and reach the hands and arms off the floor. I usually do just arms first, keeping the head settled, because I want you to just feel what's happening in the upper back without that spine extension. But you can if you want to. I like it better that way. Then, if you're ready, go ahead and extend your spine and take the full flight. Some of you might like adding legs. I find that if I lift my legs, I often feel immediate back pressure. We're gonna hang out in this arm position for probably another 3 or 4 breaths. If you're feeling kind of a heat or a burn, great. If it's like a pain or an ouch, then come out. Let's take one more deep breath, and if you'd like, slowly sweep those arms forward of the head into Superman. Exhale, release, and press back to your child's pose. If you don't like this child's pose much because of knees, it's a deep, deep bend, a really nice alternative can be just keeping the knees less bent and walking the arms forward, so you're in more of a puppy stretch, resting on the forehead. It's a little more intense on the shoulders, and if it's too intense, you can tuck a block underneath the head. That can be nice. Good. And then see if you can walk your arms forward more. And so this is an opportunity to get a nice stretch. Just keep elongating, keep kind of walking your fingertips forward. Beautiful. Breathing into that. Oh, good. I love it. I see someone's giving themselves a neck rub. Yes. The best yoga practice ever is when you listen to your body. It says, hey, you know what I'd love? And you're like, sure, let's do it. All right, we're gonna come back up into our table pose. So just kind of using a nice exhale, tuck of the tailbone. We're gonna do a little more cow-cat, and we're gonna move into our first downward facing dog. It was my most hated pose of yoga. It's now my favorite pose of yoga. We want to start with intelligent hands. Fingers are spread as wide as you can make it. Beautiful, nice little micro adjustments, folks. And if you want to take your hands a little wider than the shoulder joints, that can make it feel a little easier on your neck, your traps. And as you're ready, send those hips up and back, knees bent. And if you would, please think about that strong front line that you woke up in compression. Yeah, using that to draw into the back body. Okay, good. So there. Yeah. Okay, nice. And of course, we want to breathe here. It's a fair bit of work. You might enjoy more if your feet are a little further back. Don't ever hesitate to give yourself a little more liberation there. Yeah, if you bend the knees more deeply, it gives you room for that torso to elongate. Yeah, so really feel your way through it. Sometimes the hands can be closer, farther, all those things can make a difference. Beautiful. And keep sending those hips up and back. See if you've got one more breath, if you can let the head hang a little bit. And then slowly walk the hands back to the feet. We'll end up in ragdoll off the back of the mat. Knees are bent. I'm just letting my torso hang. And I'm trying to breathe into this challenging shape. See if you've got one more deep inhale. Send it down into the hips. On your inhale, take your hands on the shins and just extend the spine forward, what we call kind of a jackknife. On the exhale, please tuck the tailbone, so you're kind of curling under to come into your chair. Then from there, inhale, root and rise. Push the sky away. And exhaling, prayer hands. Might close the eyes a moment, turn into your heart rate, tune into your heat. We're gonna come into a balancing posture. And that might, if you're feeling at all dizzy from being upside down or whatever, take a moment, kind of stabilize. And we're gonna bring our feet together, big toes touching. And then I want you to see if you can lift the other 10 toes up. You may not be able to, the other 10, that would give you 12. The other 8, assuming you have a full 10. Lift the other 8 and then see if you can spread them out. When I first started this, I could barely find any mat, between the toes, especially on my left foot. My left foot still isn't quite as, doesn't have the dexterity of my right foot, but they're better. Yeah. And I'm hoping once you've got that, you feel a little bit like a tree frog. You feel sticky and stable. Yeah, exactly. All right, we're gonna first just add jet airplane arms and breathing. And if you're not experiencing any wobble or tilting at all, just close your eyes a moment and try to continue to breathe slow, deep, and wide into this. Yeah, guys look good. A lot of times when we try to get upright and open, there's an unconscious tendency to kind of crane or reach with our head. Instead, see if you can kind of bring the chin a little down and back so you almost have like a double chin, which is like weeble wobble, really soft. We're gonna add breath and movement of the arms, slowly sweeping out and up. And the cool thing about going slowly here is you really get to notice any of the kind of stretches and nerve stuff. Anybody else feel nerve stuff that happens through their underarm kind of? Yours is in the upper back part of the arm. Okay. Yeah, anybody else? Again, staying soft in the neck. Some people, I'm sure, are not chronic neck tightness, but I am one, and I feel like the majority of humans are. So I just constantly check in and go, okay, don't need you, not using you. The next time you are up, invite you to take one hand on the opposite wrist. Notice, by the way, if you squeeze your thighs together, like in the tree trunk, which we're gonna use in our tree pose in a moment, it gives you a lot more length and stability. And I'm gonna look down to the right. So I've got my right hand on my left arm, stretching the left arm. I'm just gonna relax my face down to the right. And then I'm gonna pull on that left arm while I also reach through it. I'm gonna soften that, pull a little bit and breathe and do it again. See if you can go deeper by sending your hips to the left as you pull your left arm to the right. Beautiful, and then let's relax that on down, and if you took on any neck tension, love it up. And we'll find the other side, so now I'm gonna clasp my left hand around my right wrist, and I'm just gonna settle my face kind of onto my left bicep because my neck likes that. Reaching long through that right arm. So yes, I'm using the power of the other arm to pull on it, but the right arm is very activated. And again, sending the hips to the right, as you draw the arm to the left, create kind of a banana shape. Release. I'm kind of shocked by how much work that is. Yeah. Intertwine your hands briefly, yoga mudra, we just want to give it a little opposite shape. And then we'll come into our tree pose. Some people like starting tree pose with hands in prayer. If balance is a real challenge, hands on hips can be helpful. You can also go to a wall or windowsill for support. But I want you to, again, get those thighs squeezing together. Make that tree trunk. Then take one hip, or one foot, excuse me, and bring it into kickstand. And we're trying to rotate that knee out. It doesn't matter how far we get, but that external rotation of the thighs. And then you might bring it up the calf, never at the knee. And notice, if you're wobbling, it's usually the inner line of the standing foot that's trying to give way, usually. So we think then about squeezing those thighs towards the center line, and that reignites the power in that inner thigh and glute stabilizer. Boom, and you can push down through that foot. Yeah. Another little tool that people said really did make a difference is that yoga toe flaring. I had you do it in bridge at the start of practice. You peel your toes open away and back from the ball of the foot. And so I'm just touching my standing leg with the heel and the ball. I know this is a long hold, but that's all right. Your thighs are like, yeah, got this. See if you can send your tree limbs up into the sky. Poor trees, they're all confused. They're gonna start budding out anytime soon. Okay, and if you can come out with some grace. Shake that standing leg, do what you gotta do. If you ever feel low back pressure, just a brief ragdoll can make the difference. And starting with those big toes touching, other toes spreading, igniting the tree trunk, liberating the neck. This pose and so many others, I feel like the key is a balance of power and peace, finding that. Okay, let's take the other foot into kickstand. And never let me rush you. You know, you're gonna find your own path, your own versions. I love it. Maybe you're bringing the foot up to the calf, flaring those yoga toes, seeing if you can externally rotate the thighs a little bit more. It's funny, when we're scared of falling, we tend to curl in towards ourselves, but then we actually lose the strength of our back body, which is how we can catch ourselves. So we kind of have to go against our own instincts and train in a new pattern for strength and stability. Raising those arms up, yeah. Is this side different? Is that inner line of the foot easier or more difficult? No worries. To keep rooted. I love, by the way, seeing smiles. I'm so happy. Like, we're so with our, you can have this kind of resiliency here on the mat. That's great.
Can you remind me about the foot? What do you do with it?
Yeah, so she's asking for a reminder of kind of the foot and how to anchor it. So it's that inner line of the foot, so the inner heel and the ball of the big toe and the big toe. Now, in order to anchor that, we don't want to angle in on it. It's just that we're directing downward strength and our intention through it.
Pushing.
Yes, we're squeezing the thighs towards the center line. And that is key because, yeah, it can be very subtle, but a lot of times people, as soon as we go from this mountain and they go to bring the foot up, they'll cock that hip out. And now we've lost that inner line of strength that is what allows us to push down. So I've gotten really good at this even like in warrior pose, which we're gonna be doing in a moment. We're gonna take this same intelligence. And I've gotten to the point where I can be so anchored through there that if you try to push me over, I mean, obviously you could, you gave it your all, but it's not easy. Whereas if I'm not anchored through there, I mean, it takes nothing. I'm just a, blob of, I'm trying to think of Gumby, right? So we're gonna be non-Gumby, at least through the main part of our body. We'd love to stay Gumby in the neck. All right, we're gonna go sideways on our mat. Thank you for asking that question. I know we did this last week. We came into our kind of straddle 5-pointed star, and I had us give attention to those feet once more. So placing the ball of the big toe, and then seeing if you could spread your other toes out, and seeing if you can feel both corners of the heel, inner and outer. Yeah, looking good. And when you go to push into the earth and you feel those quadriceps coming into play and the high joints and all that, I'm hoping you just feel like super strong and stable. We want to keep that feeling of stability, even though I'm going to make some changes to the feet and the leg movement, right? So everyone turn your right foot 90 degrees, plant the heel, replant the toes and the ball. Good. Think about that back foot and use it as your propulsion, your power to send that front hip and knee forward. Now look down, the knee and the foot should be tracking with each other. So if it isn't, make sure you adjust your foot alignment so that it's straight forward and the knee is too. Yeah, and then we're just gonna pulse. I just want you to kind of play here. What's your comfort zone? So like your knee is coming a little forward of your heel. Can you scoot your foot forward? That'll reduce pressure on the knee. Back leg stays straight, pushing the floor into the foot into the floor. Yeah, let's go ahead and switch. We'll neutral those feet out. We'll turn the left foot 90. That back foot is perpendicular to the edge of the mat. And again, think about that back foot. A lot of us, we just start thinking forward and that back foot starts peeling away and now our knee is at risk and we could easily slip or slide. Certainly won't be as powerful. That looks great. You've got that beautifully. Yeah, and it's a big time balancing pose, right?
Well, I don't have any feeling in that foot.
Oh, that's gonna make this even more challenging. See if you can straighten this leg. There you go. Keep it with that. Everybody, I want you to scan your torso. A lot of us end up with our torsos sort of forward of center. Yeah, think about that tailbone to crown alignment. And so you're like a king or a queen, just sort of up above your foundation. There you go. That is it. You got it. Arms reaching out from the heart, of course. And I love it, you guys. I know that we have done this pose, a lot of us, hundreds, thousands of times, but there's so much subtlety available. Go ahead and come back to center, just bend your knees and fold a little bit. And we're gonna come back in and have one more ignition. And an ignition, as I think of it, it's something invisible. No one looking at you is gonna see it. It's not an alignment change. It's an awakening of certain muscle groups and adding that to our pose. So after you've had a little ragdoll rest in your straddle fold, come back up. And the ignition change that we're gonna add, or ignition addition, oh, I like that, ignition addition. You're gonna get that same foot alignment when you're ready. Start with right foot turned 90 degrees. In addition to the feet spreading and rooting and anchoring and your knee alignment and all the stuff we talked about, I'm gonna add two thoughts. One is I want you to think about pushing into the mat like you're trying to stretch it. And then I also want you to think about pulling up in the inner thigh pelvic floor as if you were trying to also shorten the mat. You're like, how do I do those things at the same time? Have fun. Wake up both of those instincts, basically. And then we'll reach those arms out from the heart. Maybe you're looking out in front of your front hand. Maybe your neck doesn't like that. You look behind. to the side. But let's take just a couple more breaths thinking stretching of the yoga mat and shortening of the yoga mat. They told us a story when we were training in yoga at Kripalu that they made the original monks like train with in socks on like a marble floor. Your imagination gets it. Good, let's switch. And my hope is that we will all feel a little bit more enlivenment in the hip muscles, the inner thigh groin muscles. You might be, in fact, a little sore there tomorrow as you're trying this out. And I'm kind of contract and relax, and you're not just frozen. Looks good. Maybe just a little more, there you go. Yeah, with that crown above the hips. Or what feels natural, you know, like sometimes it feels unnatural to try and completely straight up. See if you can stay straight through. That's your warrior energy. The power and the peace of the spiritual warrior. We're grounded, we're stable, and we're also relaxed, just ready to respond to what comes at us in the world. All right, my friends, I think we've had probably enough of that. Let's just come on out and roll out ankles. This is actually really great for our ankles, knees, etc., but it's a lot of angles compared to what we make in daily life, yeah? Let's curl the foot under, so I'm just curling my toes back. If this ever hurts, definitely like go add more padding or do it at home on carpet or something, it can feel marvelous. And then we'll switch to the other. And then great idea, we should go straight to our quadricep stretch. So either standing or on your front body, up to you. And it can be really nice to have the wall as balance support because then you can focus on the stretch. If balance is pretty easy for you, then no bigs, all right? So we're going to contract our butt a little bit before we go ahead and reach for one ankle. And if you try to go and do that and it's just too far away, pant leg, strap, whatever it takes, great alternative. Because what we want is to be able to get the bent knee back in, showing it very well, back in towards the straight leg. I don't mean touching, but just coming back down into alignment under your hip bone. And then we'd love to be able to stand up straight, reach up through the heart, down and back through the knee. And then of course, the more you squeeze the glutes, kind of tucking them under, can you feel that edge that it's bringing in? Yeah. Let's go ahead and switch sides. And of course, sometimes this side will be different. We'll have more or less range of motion. Or maybe the stretch will just arrive somewhere different. Like I just noticed my left leg, I probably have the same range of motion, but I feel like the texture of the muscle on that side is just not as fluid. Yeah. So again, sending breath into it, getting good stretch in that thigh.
It's all part of the goals.
What's that?
It's part of it.
Oh, I know, yeah, but are you getting a stretch as you do it?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And of course, when you feel ready, come on out and you can go back to your mat, come towards the front of the mat if you would, take a wide-kneed ragdoll. Okay, so feet are wide, and we're just gonna send the hips up and we're gonna hang out here literally. You can, if your hands are feeling like they're too far from the floor, you could even use a block, or sometimes people like wrapping them around the opposite bicep. I just like having them kind of on the floor and letting my head hang. And then swinging a little left and right. It's a marvelous way to get into some of that IT band stuff. Yeah. And in a moment, I'm going to have a step back to downward facing dog. But I want you to keep breathing into this back line, right? This is the line that we were strengthening right at the beginning of practice. Right. As you are ready, we're gonna actually, I lied, we're coming up first. Sorry, miscue on my part. If you would first inhale, come up halfway, jackknife. Exhale, tuck tailbone, sit to chair. Inhale, root and rise. And I wanna have you come down into your jet airplane arms and hold here for a moment. I realized I wanted to open up that front line before we kind of fold it again in our dog. Now inhale, sweep up, maybe add a little back bend, sending the glutes forward, knees are activated and straight. Exhaling, fold, plant the hands and step back, downward facing dog. Intelligent hands, sending those heels towards the floor, sending those hips up and back. And just notice, would bear pose feel even better to you today? You could take those feet wide, you could take the hands wider. In bear pose, we bend the knees as deeply as we comfortably can and send the chest back towards that V between the legs. So it's just a little different than downward dog. We're getting rid of that hamstring resistance and intensity. We're gonna be coming through dog series, those of you that would like that. You can do any version of it. You can also just do cow cat for more spinal pumping. That would be a low intensity spinal pumping. Otherwise, if you'd like to join me in dog series, bring those feet back in towards each other. Inhaling slowly forward to your plank. Knees down can be great if this is your first chaturanga or low push-up of the day. We're gonna bend the elbows back, and maybe it's just a 1-inch hold. Maybe you can lower slowly all the way to the floor. Inhaling, pelvis anchors for cobra, drawing heart forward. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Either in dog or table, we're gonna ever so slowly take the right leg flying. Notice if you gave up any of your balance or alignment. Slowly switch legs. Slowly return. All right, we're gonna come to our bellies again. I'm gonna do a little plank to chaturanga to get there. Inhaling plank. If you did it knees first and it felt really great, maybe you stay on the feet. And we're gonna come in and out of cobra here. So I'm gonna just inhale, draw the heart forward, and exhale, return it. Inhale, extend it, and exhale, return it. If you're feeling back pressure, don't come as high. You know, you don't even have to lift the chest, just lifting the head, you will feel that upper back and mid-back work. That's what we want. All right, excuse me. Invitation to bring the hands behind, again in Yoga Mudra. Make sure you are anchoring the pelvic triangle. Roll those shoulder heads back. Press the fists away from you and up off of the butt. Just a few breaths there. And then we're gonna press back, child's pose, or again, you could go to a puppy. We're just doing a couple of breaths there before we come into a shoulder renovation practice that I've got for you. So when you're ready, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be on our hands and knees, and we're gonna be coming down to one forearm at a time. And we're doing a tractioning that allows us to ignite and release all through the supporting tissues for the shoulder joint, including the fascia and so on. So I feel like it's really, again, great for us modern humans, we need it. But especially if you have a shoulder history, if you've got an injury or whatever, this can be really useful, but it also means it could be very different on one side. So starting off in table, and make sure you've got your hands far enough away from the knees. We're gonna come down onto one forearm. You got it. And as you're ready, what you're gonna be doing is pressing down through the forearm and drawing back. And I'm not moving my forearm, I'm just engaging. So when you're ready, with that engagement, nice long inhale, exhale, send your hips back towards the heels while you're engaging. Inhale, return to the starting position. And exhaling, again, tractioning and slowly sending the hips back. And I hope you'll spend some time in that hips back position to feel the fullness of the stretch. Oh, okay, good.
Just a little different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody not feeling some of that stretch through the kind of the lat muscles and kind of into that armpit, or maybe even up on the back. Okay, because if you're having a hard time with it, it's usually that you need to move your forearm further forward. That's usually the ticket. Let's switch. Let's see what's in that other side. So we're bringing the other forearm down, and if you want, you can bring it a little towards the center line. That will intensify it. And you're gonna traction down and back and slowly send those hips back. So this is very different than just doing a stretch, right? You are activating and using while stretching. And that can be quite transformative. Anybody surprised to find one side be different? Is anybody else having that? You, yeah. I was amazed just now how much in the left side, how much I could feel all the way down like my waistline. So not just in the arms, but again, all the way down the lat line and so on. When you feel complete with this, asking you to notice what, if anything, your body is craving. And then I'm going to take us into our resting time and so on. We'll do one last supported pose with the block under the sacral triangle, and then we'll move into our yogic sleep or shavasana. If you are craving any other stretch, pose, another round of dog series, please go there. Otherwise, you're going to come onto your back. You're going to plant the feet, lift the hips, and you're going to place your block under the sacral triangle. So we do not want it in the low back. This is really important. It's got to be right at that bony triangle at the top of the practice. And I invite people to always start with the knees bent. In other words, give your weight of your hips to the block, but with your feet still planted like bridge. And this gives you a chance to very delicately notice what's going on, how's your back feeling. Then if you'd like, go ahead and straighten the legs, kind of draping the body. Generally, these positions feel really good. I don't ever hold this position for more than a minute, because again, our body is always creating neutral, and so we go back and forth to find good neutral, but we don't want to hold out neutral too long, or everything can go under. So enjoy this, breathe as long as you would like, and when you're ready to come out, always plant the feet again to lift the knees, to lift the hips, walk. And then sometimes it feels good to bring knees to belly, a nice little spinal rocking or whatever. And then as many of you know, I am a big proponent of using the bolster during our resting time. And I've got a couple of extras up at the front if anyone's thinking that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, I like the bolster. I find it really helps my back stay relaxed. I'm not on the hard of the floor and so on. But the other thing I love about it is that there's this invitation for a rolling open of the chest and the shoulders, right? This area that we tend to be chronically tight as modern humans. So please take all the time you need to create a resting shape. You could have legs up the wall, if you're at home, you could have legs up on an ottoman or a sofa. I'm going to take us into a little bit of breath attention or pranayama, breath work, in order to just wind ourselves towards that yogic rest. So when you are ready, once again, please turn your gaze up and in, as if you're looking behind the center of the forehead, third eye point.
Become aware of the presence of your breath in the body. And as you're ready on your next exhale, simply hold the breath out. And notice. Notice that initial instinct to breathe. Ask, can I soften around this? Such a great question. Can I soften? When you need to inhale, do, and then hold in. Internal breath lock. As we hold in, the pressure of the breath expanding will be felt. Once again, we wonder, can I soften around this? And if you're enjoying this breath, it can be so meditative. If you would like to continue with it, please do. Otherwise, now inviting you to let go of all breath attention, allowing your body and mind to settle into this still and quiet place. We often say these are the most important minutes of our practice where we integrate everything we've done. Each exhale, you might sense that gravity is getting a little bit heavier, inviting you to soften and settle down and down and down. I invite you to become lightly aware of my voice, inviting you to do a body scan, guiding your attention from head to feet, front, back, and center bodies. What did you notice in today's practice? Any differences, right or left? Perhaps an awareness of some part of the body that doesn't respond when you try to speak to it or connect to it, and that you have to kind of wake it up. Places that felt strong, places that felt weak. And you might notice, was just there anything in particular that felt so good and useful that you'd want to repeat it this week? I remind you, a long time ago at the beginning of our practice, we did the slicing arm movement while being over something under the bra strap. And I personally find that feels good every day. Inviting you to explore that if you had a similar sense of like, wow, I need this. Thank you all so much for being here at the mat with me today. I look forward to seeing you soon again. Om Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace. Namaste. Please make a slow emergence into life off of the yoga mat. I hope you feel great and look forward to doing this again.
Where they do it.